Hello everyone, pretty excited to announce a brand new podcast coming out called Betting Book Club. We're going to take a look at some very well known and maybe some not so well known books and research papers and different literature out there on the topics of betting as well as more broadly, and have a bit of a unique look at these topics from a betting perspective and how they can be looked at to augment our betting and how we think about things, our strategy, philosophy on what we're doing, as well as, the psychology of these different elements that go into making us better at what we do. So I'm going to play here very shortly a quick snippet from one of the earlier episodes, which will probably be available next week, just so you can get a sense of some of the discussion and what's going to happen. I'm really excited to open it up to others to come on to talk about these books, to talk about the different aspects that go into making strides in our betting, and hopefully we have different viewpoints, different discussions and analysis that go into it. There's certainly not one simple answer for a lot of these things, so that's going to be fun, seeing what other people are taking from these books and taking from different approaches that are out there. And here's a snippet from Ed Thorp's book, A Man for All Markets, and just a discussion around bet placement, bet timing, whether it's worthwhile to wait for a change in price that might be beneficial, or the downside of waiting and then potentially losing a bet option or a trade or whatever it might be because the price has gone in another direction. So here's a piece of that discussion from one of the episodes coming up, and just a little bit of a quick snippet into what you can expect. Pretty much every single bet, if you're betting sports or horse racing, prices are moving, and you've got to decide when to enter the market and place the bet, or what happens if you don't enter and it goes the other direction and you lose the ability to place that bet. I think it's something, can you pick the top or bottom of the market enough to make it worthwhile is a very interesting question. Does it all wash out in the end where you're positive or negative? And do people do that analysis? Should you do that analysis? Should you just have a price, enter it as soon as you see that price, as soon as it works for you? Or if something is wildly drifting, do you wait and see and maybe you get a better price, or maybe there's something you miss? Like, there's so many things that go into it, so many factors to consider. And, the one of the things that, putting aside the math for a moment, what other factors might go into this analysis and discussion? If you are betting on horse racing and there's, races every 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, and you miss out on that bet because you waited and then the price went the other direction too quickly for you to snap it up, how does that impact your next bet or the next time that situation comes up? Will you deviate from your strategy of trying to time the market or time your bet to perfection? What if you miss 2 in a row, 3, 5, 7 in a row, and you don't place those bets because you missed them? How will that impact you? So there's obviously the math component, but also the mindset and trying to make sure, if you are going to go with your gut and pick the right time to enter a market, it's obviously something you need to consider. And then, what if I wait and it doesn't quite get to 7 and it's at 6.5, and I like 6.5, but I like 7 better, and it goes back down to 6? Will you bet 6 when you wouldn't typically have bet 6 because you go on tilt slightly because you missed out on, or the price didn't go to 7 and you missed out on 6.5, and now it's 6 everywhere? Do you bet 6 and just stomach it that way? I think it's certainly an interesting thing to think about when bet placement as a topic comes up, and it was certainly interesting to see Ed's perspective in this sort of very narrow example from a trading point of view, and haggling for that extra price. And I think it obviously comes down to, volume's important as well, for many reasons. If you're a very high volume, then missing one bet, how impactful is that? You need to do that analysis yourself. Obviously, if you're very low volume and you might be having 3 bets for the entire day, let's say, then it is important if you miss one of those bets. What's the expected value that you're missing out on there, and what impact does it have mentally to you for the rest of that day or for other bets that you might place? So it is a fascinating topic. It's not often discussed, I would say. It's hard to find too much detail on it, just because a lot of it is people use their gut instincts to time the markets and time when they enter and place those bets. And it'll be something that, I'd be interested in hearing what people think about it, and certainly this example from a trading context, but more broadly on gambling and betting and how they think about it and how they approach it. So there's just a snippet from one of the episodes around Ed Thorp's book, A Man for All Markets, and it's just one of the topics we get into, which is bet placement, There's some other stuff in there around applying scrutiny, range, and sampling periods, and whether you want to be more like Tiger Woods or Roger Federer in what you're doing, among other topics. So hopefully it's an interesting and insightful, thought-provoking discussion that can be had throughout the episode, and hopefully more so post-episode with many people in the industry and the network who look at these topics, and hopefully without necessarily getting towards firm answers, but some robust discussion can take place, and then from there we can go into other books and other methods, other theories, other strategies, and other thoughts from different authors and people who are looking at betting, but also other people that aren't. So if you want to get involved, please do reach out. This is not a closed book club. It's certainly an open book club. We're looking for people to engage. We're looking for different ideas and thoughts when it comes to these topics. It's not something that's widely available online necessarily in this format. So hopefully we can take it in a fun and positive direction. And like I said, if you want to be involved, please feel free to send a message via Twitter or email, and we'll definitely be able to talk about what that looks like. So follow us on Twitter, and we'll get cracking here very shortly.